Mr. Malhotra, you have won the UNESCO award recently, and you're one of India's leading publishers. Will you tell us about this award? What was this award and what is its significance?
Well, this award was created by UNESCO's International Book Committee, and amongst other things, for instance, they give programs to various nations how to have better promotion of books. They thought, let us give an award every year to one individual or an institution anywhere in the world who has done outstanding work for the cause of books.
And you are the first Indian and the second Asian to have won this award.
That's true. This award has gone previously, once it went even to the president of Senegal, Mr. Senghor, who is a poet and a very man of literary taste. He made special efforts that his nation should become literate.
In India, what is the significance of books? I mean, after all, we have a fairly low literacy rate. Not many people read books. Why are books suddenly so significant?
It's a bad thing that during the last, say, 15 years, the number of books published every year in India has gone down. We had touched a high peak of even 22,000 new books a year. This is as per the statistics collected at our National Library, Calcutta. And as per UNESCO statistics, the comparison between various nations.
What is it now?
Now it is about 13,000.
So from 22 we've come down to 13,000 books a year.
The constraints have been too many. One I would say is the most crucial to me is that books have become costlier. And the major reason is the price of paper, which is the greatest input. And it's a strange thing that the price of paper in New Delhi is higher than the price of similar paper in London and New York, without any rhyme or reason. I have been running a book club. You know, book club is a system by which people can get books by post. And during the last 20 years, the number of people we have enrolled in our book club, I mean the serial number, not that they are all here, is over 5,22,000. There are people, literate, even graduates, who are sitting far off. Somebody, as I say, is a graduate and happens to be the manager of a tea estate in Assam. The nearest place where he can get a book is perhaps a ramshackle small bookstall at a railway station 50 miles away. For them, the only way is to get books by post.
What do you see concretely in terms of the future of books? The electronic media is rapidly growing. It has become the primary source of information for a lot of people. It covers 85% of the nation. Books have become very expensive. Are you dismaying about the future of books?
I am not dismayed. One may be dismayed temporarily because books and book publishing and book writing is not getting enough encouragement. I wouldn't say even encouragement, the right type of atmosphere to write books, to produce books, are not enough libraries. People are there who want to read books. I think the heart of our nation is sound. People are book lovers, but they cannot buy books. Now the question you have raised about the electronic media, and especially TV, is extremely crucial. We have gone over to TV at a time, perhaps too early from the point of view of the book reading habit has not developed sufficiently and deeply enough in our daily lives. Now, for instance, in the West, everyone is buying books, reading books, not that they don't have problems of the economic nature, but book has become part of their daily life. You go to a home and books are there.
But they have a much higher level of literacy and a greater premium on the kind of information and insight that books are able to provide.
But the total number, in terms of absolute numbers, we have a large number of literates. 35.5% of 80 crores come to a...
But what is the quality of that literacy?
All right, take even 10% of that, 5% of that.
And the purchasing power then of those people who are that literate.
But we produce low-priced books. I don't say that we must have very glossy paper, or we may think of Rexine binding. I think even reading material. You go to the village, there are people who would keep as a valuable thing even a crumpled old magazine and newspaper. They will read it. The urge to read. And going back to that UNESCO, their book committee in 1972 celebrated International Book Year. Then in 1982, they made to celebrate some congress in London. The theme was that we should turn our society into a book reading society. The electronic media, the TV, they give you capsuled information. It is one-way traffic. It's very important for this hustle and bustle and this life to get those. But for deeper thinking, where is to and fro, you pick up a book, you read a few sentences, you stop, then you think. TV cannot substitute books. If we have to make our nation a thinking nation, good citizens, I always remember Tennyson's, not gold but only men can make a nation great and strong. It is the quality of the people, and books play a very significant role in making better citizens.
But you would need to really, if you were seeking to encourage or cultivate the reading habit, the time to reach people are when they're young and children. And I think that most people feel that there really isn't enough interesting reading material for children that can excite them and motivate them into reading. I remember from my own childhood, the books that one read were really Western authors. You read Enid Blyton, and you grew up in P.G. Wodehouse and things like that. What about Indian children? What is their access to interesting, exciting books?
This is true. I mean, this is a very basic problem. As a matter of fact, my own reading is that in India we have not been able to cultivate interest for books. The ordinary students who go to school, they treat book as a contrivance to pass the examinations. And I have seen people who have done even graduation, but they have never touched a book again, because the love for book and what a person can get from a book has not been cultivated in their minds by their teacher. The wonderful world of books. You can pick up a book and you can be traveling in Colombia, South America, you can go to Siberia, you can meet Einstein, you can do anything if you know how to use a book. I'm not talking of encyclopedias, but even an inspiring book. When you are down and out, you pick up a book, and perhaps a few sentences can take you to a new world.
Tell me about your own life. You were born into a publishing family but didn't want to go into publishing immediately. How did publishing suddenly happen to you? I mean, if you were interested in books, did you ever think of writing books, or how did this happen?
Well, there is a story about it. I always thought I'll go into teaching line, and I thought I was cut out for that. I took my master's degree in political science back in 1944 in Lahore from Punjab University. And lo, it happened, I topped the university and first class, and I immediately got a job of a lecturer in political science, went to Srinagar, started teaching. I put my heart and soul, and within a few months I was given in postgraduate classes. Those were the days when teachers were respected. I think teachers earned respect. I remember I would prepare my next day's lecture, evening, early morning, and just reach the college to deliver the lecture. But I found that my dream world of having a library, doing research, and a small garden house, that was a time when, in economic terms, what you call, the wages were lagging behind the prices were jumping. I couldn't buy even a pamphlet. So there was a family business. As a matter of fact, our family publishing dates back to 1892. My father had taken it as a running concern. Then my brother was doing. He was very happy when I joined him. And I started a new company in Lahore and political books at that time. And I had all the leaders of that time with me. Even I published Jawaharlal Nehru, K.M. Munshi, Acharya Kriplani and so on, Jayaprakash Narayan. I was publishing English, Urdu and Hindi. Then came the partition and there was at least 1 year's gap. I restarted. I joined a printing press here as a partner, and then after another year I went back to publishing school textbooks and other things, and then something happened. In 1956, one of my friends inspired me and I went to Europe. I went around, saw many publishing houses. I visited Penguins also. When I came back, I thought if any country needs low-priced books, it was India. As I told you, I know people have the urge to read books, even if they are small number of people, but this small is quite big. So I started paperbacks, to start with in Hindi, then later on in English, Urdu and Punjabi. So I've been publishing in 4 languages. The key to paperback publishing is mass distribution.
How low is your low-priced book? What are the typical prices?
When it was in 1958 and my low price was low even at that time, it was 1 rupee.
What is it today?
Today it's 10 rupees. And even 10 is very low. Low from 2 points of view. Very low in this sense that looking at the cost of paper, and many publishers ask me, especially the foreigners, how you give in 10 rupees 160 pages, good printing.
What kind of authors and what kind of books are you able to market at that price? Let's say, what have been the most popular books that you have been able to market at that price?
Let me start with Hindi. In Hindi, I have all the top best authors. Now today, with times they have been changing. For instance, now Shivani is one of the very popular authors in Hindi. There has been one Acharya Chatursain Shastri. I took the rights of Premchand's works also from his sons a year before it went into public domain. You know, public domain means that anybody can publish. Now, Vishwabharati University in Shanti Niketan, they gave me the rights to bring out Tagore's works in Hindi. And
now, will that also be sold priced at 10 rupees?
10, 12, 15.
What about the author? How much money is the author able to make? In a new author, do you publish a lot of new authors?
I have taken a lot
of young authors.
Yes, I must have given break to very large number, and sometimes I feel quite satisfied when many authors come. Well, you published my first book, I am always indebted to you. Now in paperback publishing, because the price is low, my margin is low, author's margin is low. But on the total sale, because the number of copies sold is more, we give in paperback 5% to 7.5% royalty. But my own margin is even less.
What is a standard first print order? And so how much, if I spend 2 years writing a book, how much money can I hope to make at the end of that?
Well, it depends on your popularity.
Of course, but what's a range?
You see, in India, very few authors are whole-timers. Now some have come. Most of the authors are doing some other job also. Somebody is in radio, somebody is in your Doordarshan. There are some teachers, professors, and but there are authors to whom I pay annual royalty of 50,000, 70,000, and even 100,000. But the new ones, I brought out a series 3 years ago of the new wave writers, and the print run wasn't more than 5,000 in those cases, and the price was just 5 rupees. Now 5,000, 5 rupees is just 25,000, and on 25,000, if the entire edition is sold, At 5% it will be 1,250. But the satisfaction they get. I think a real author, a real artist, he does need money to live. He should be. It should be the responsibility of the society. And I treat myself as a publisher who should look after the interest of the authors. Unless the authors grow, unless they have comfortable time, they cannot write well. There are some people who may say under difficult circumstances they write better. I don't say we should. The urge to put on paper what they feel, whether for a social cause or even for a romantic cause or even for their country or for the humanity at large, if it comes in print and even if a few people read it. Now I am bringing out a book in Hindi on African poetry. Poems have been picked up, those have been translated, and I am getting it illustrated also. Now a book of poetry in Hindi, African poetry, I don't think we'll be able to sell more than even 500 to 600 copies. But even 500 people buying that, 50 of them going deep, 5 of them getting imbued with a spirit of liberation for that great continent is enough.
It's a predicament that many governments and societies face, whether they're sort of Western liberal democracies or more totalitarian states, and that is the aspect of freedom of speech and freedom of writing and expression. As a book publisher, how have you reacted? Have you ever had any books banned, and how do you react to the principle of government interventions in this matter?
We have passed through all this. Even back in the days of my father in 1928 and 29, some of our books were banned by the British government. And I distinctly remember a book just of patriotic songs and with Sardar Bhagat Singh's picture over it. Police came to our bookshop and took away everything. But coming to the larger issue of banning or not banning or a free society, so far as an autocratic state is concerned, a dictatorship is concerned, dictator is intolerant. He thinks he is everything, he is the state. Nobody can question him. But even under a dictatorship, if a book is banned, it leads to more circulation. Underground printers print it and they pass from one person to another. Banning is not the answer. The answer to a views with which you differ is to write another book, circulate another book, present another point of view. Even during days of emergency also certain books were banned, but that did not achieve the result the rulers wanted to. If we have freedom, it should be absolute freedom. If freedom is there for one writer, there is freedom for another, except if somebody brings trash, indecent, or hurting the feelings of a section of people, and there the government as the guardian, I think government has to act.
But how would it be different? Wouldn't the same ends be, wouldn't the same thing happen? Even if it was trash or it was hurting the sentiments of a particular community, if the government banned it, you're just attracting more attention to the book.
It is true. Now the latest case of this book, Salman Rushdie's, more copies have been circulated and people are trying to get it by various means. Many people have approached me, Mr. Malhotra, can I get a copy? By banning you give extra importance. But when some people, there is a danger of hurting people, you cannot always leave it to another fellow to write a book. I think every right, even the freedom of speech, has to have some responsibility also. And when the government bans a book, the whole press, all liberal people get together and speak against it. I don't think we have to take every case in its own way.
For most people who are interested in books, the access to new, exciting books from the West, prices are incredibly high. You can end up paying 300, 400, 500 rupees for a book. As a member of the international fraternity of book publishers, have you taken any initiatives to try and lower the prices of foreign books coming into India?
We have done. When I say we, mean our government, and India is leader of the developing countries. You know the International Copyright Convention, and India is signatory to both the International Copyright Conventions. One is called the Berne Convention of 1886 and another under UNESCO. Now those conventions were made and framed primarily by the Western countries, European, who wanted to keep a closed fist control over them. And now we found, take as an imaginary case, works of Bertrand Russell, now, or even his autobiography, 400-500 rupees, how many Indians can read? Even the copyright cannot be absolute. You have to have a balance between the right to read, the right to have access to information, and the developing countries cannot buy those books. Even libraries cannot buy. Therefore, some amendments were done in the International Copyright Conventions, and back in 1971, a Paris Convention was made by which if a recalcitrant publisher or a copyright holder of a Western country doesn't give right to an Indian publisher, whosoever he may be, then compulsory licensing is the technical term by which our registrar of copyright, the Indian registrar within the Ministry of Human Resource Development, can say, well, Mr. Malhotra, you can publish this book, not free. You publish this book at Indian prices, deposit the royalty with the registrar, which will be sent to the author or the copyright holder.
So this is something the government of India does unilaterally, if the publisher doesn't cooperate?
No, government doesn't do. Government only is an agency to help getting you the copyright. There has been a lot of problem for Indian publishers, for publishers from other developing countries. They want books, even for education, higher education. And advanced countries, their publishers do not want to part with copyright. We want their Indian editions, and they don't give. In such a case, the total procedure is there. You apply, remind, and after 6 months, if the registrar of copyright is convinced that there is a case, a very important book is Gray's Anatomy. India has not been able to get right. But in Pakistan, that is available at cheap price because the Pakistan government allowed its publishers to publish it. Now our people should be deprived. We believe in free flow of books and free flow of information.
I'm not quarreling with the principle of what you're saying. It's really the practicality of it. You have a foreign publisher who publishes a book. He simply decides that he doesn't want to sell the copyright to an Indian publisher because it's not financially lucrative. How can you pressure him into doing so?
We have signed the International Copyright Convention. There are countries who have not signed. They are free. For instance, take Thailand. Any book can be published. Taiwan, any book can be published. They are publishing books, they haven't signed. There was a time Soviet Russia was not a member of the International Copyright Convention.
Fair enough, but we have signed, and there is a foreign publisher, X. How can we pressure him into allowing us to publish his book?
Well, now there is a legal way through this 1971 Paris Convention. We are not doing illegally. They want to sell their costlier editions meant for the public of UK or Germany or France at their economic level. Our economic level is different. But so far as information and knowledge is concerned, there should be complete socialism all over the world. God has given. And the authors are with us. Authors of all over the world, they want their books to be published even in Timbuktu. But the publisher, the copyright holder, they have a short-sighted view. I have explained to many of them, if you allow an Indian to bring out an edition or any other, then maybe the royalty may be meager, but the larger number of copies, they are a little afraid. Sometimes our publishers are also such who would not, play the game. But in the larger interest of the reading public all over the world, if we have to uphold copyright, why the advanced nations agreed to it was otherwise there was the danger. Many people in our country advocated. Now USA, was not
advocated what? That we illegally publish?
No, we protect copyright in India, but international conventions. The first international copyright convention we signed when we were part of the British Empire. Second, of course, we signed in 1952 when we were a free country. Some people thought our internationalism was too much so far as knowledge is concerned. Let's publish everything. Like Soviet Russia before 1972, like United States of America, they could publish any book before 1952. Let us publish all the books like a railway compartment. Those who enter, they don't let others come. But once let us have this. No, but our view is, I have been writing on copyright, I am treated as an expert on copyright. My view is that we should convince those people that copyright, instead of becoming a hindrance, should become a method to propagate more knowledge. The royalty they get, now it's I think an extension, or what should I say, there was a time when India was part of, say, the British Empire. These were their markets. The British publishers sold these books. They still can't get over it. Now we have a vibrant publishing industry. We are number 7th in the whole world.
On the balance, what do you see as the future of Indian publishing, and what sort of growing role do you see for it for yourself?
I think now that we have started this national literacy mission, and we will, by our efforts and God's grace, make a couple of other crores as literate, they will need books. We'll need publishers, whether in the public sector or private sector. We'll need writers, and we have to take the message of reading books to everyone. Publishing has to grow. These hindrances in the way of publishing, we must get over them. And I have thought it myself that by God's grace my work has been recognized, and I owe it to society and to the writing and publishing community that whatever I can do for better propagation of books, I would like to do.